Your money isn't real. Not in the way you think. It's not backed by gold, not backed by silver, not backed by anything you can touch, hold, or keep. It's a number, on a screen. That exists because a bank typed it into a computer. And you trade 40 years of your life for it. Every morning, every commute, every meeting you didn't want to attend, every weekend you worked instead of lived. All for something that was invented out of thin air. So here's the question nobody wants to answer. If money is fake, why does it control everything you do? There was a time when money was real, when every dollar in your pocket was a receipt, a claim on actual gold, sitting in an actual vault, with your name on it. That's not a fairy tale. That was the law, for most of human history. Then, in 1971, one man broke the promise, in one evening, without asking you, without asking anyone. And since that night, every dollar you've ever earned has been backed by exactly nothing. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your parents could afford a house on one salary, why you can't on two, and why the answer has nothing to do with how hard you work. It has everything to do with what they did to your money. For 5,000 years, money meant one thing: metal, gold, silver, copper. Something you could weigh, something you could bite, something a king couldn't print. That was the whole point. Money had to be hard to make because if anyone could create it from nothing, everyone would. And it would become worthless. The Romans figured this out the hard way. In the 3rd century, Emperor Diocletian started mixing cheaper metals into Roman coins. Less silver, more bronze. Same stamp, same face, same promise. But the bread sellers noticed. Prices doubled, then tripled. Then the Roman economy collapsed. Sound familiar? It should, because the trick hasn't changed, only the technology. Germany tried the same trick in 1923. After World War I, the government owed billions in war reparations. So they printed, and printed, and printed. In January 1923, a loaf of bread cost 250 marks. By November, 200 billion marks for one loaf. Workers were paid twice a day, because if they waited until evening, their morning salary was worthless. People burned money for heat, literal paper money, because it was cheaper than firewood. A lifetime of savings, wiped out in months, not by war, not by famine, by a government printing press. Your great-grandparents might remember this. Some of them lived through it, and they learned one lesson that they passed down through generations. Never trust paper money, unless it's backed by something real. Fast forward to 1694, the Bank of England opens, the first modern central bank, and it introduced something revolutionary. Paper money, not coins. Paper. A piece of paper that said, "Bring this to the bank, and we'll give you gold." That's all a banknote was. A receipt, an IOU. And it worked. Because you could actually walk into the bank and walk out with gold. The paper had a promise behind it. A real one. America adopted the same system. The dollar was defined as a specific weight of gold. Not a vague concept. A measurement. Like an inch, like a pound. 1 ounce of gold equaled $20.67. That was the law for over 100 years. If the government printed too many dollars, people would exchange them for gold. The gold would leave the vault, and the government would be forced to stop printing. That was the leash. Gold kept the government honest, not because politicians were moral, but because math is hard to argue with. And here's what that meant for you. In 1900, a dollar bought a dollar's worth of stuff. In 1910, same. In 1920, same. For your grandparents, prices barely moved. A loaf of bread cost the same for decades. Your salary meant something. Your savings held their value. Your future was predictable. Not because the economy was perfect, but because the money was real. Then came 1944, and everything changed. 44 nations walked into a hotel in New Hampshire. Only one walked out with the keys to the global economy. Radia. July 1944, Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. 700 delegates from 44 countries. The world was still at war. Europe was in ruins. And America had one thing nobody else had. Gold. 75% of the world's gold reserves. Sitting in Fort Knox. So America made a deal. The dollar would be backed by gold. And every other currency would be backed by The dollar. The dollar became the base layer, the foundation of global money. Every franc, every mark, every pound, every yen, all anchored to the dollar. And the dollar anchored to gold. It was the most powerful financial position in history. And it came with one rule. Any country at any time could exchange their dollars for gold at $35 per ounce, fixed rate, guaranteed. That was the promise. For 27 years it held. Then France got suspicious. President Charles de Gaulle looked at how many dollars America was printing. Vietnam, the space race, social programs. The numbers didn't add up. There was no way America had enough gold to back all those dollars. So in 1965, de Gaulle sent a Navy ship to New York. Literally, a warship. Loaded American gold onto it. And sailed it back to France. Other countries followed. Switzerland, Germany, Britain. Everyone started cashing in their dollars. The vault was emptying, fast. And on August 15, 1971, Richard Nixon went on television. Sunday night, prime time. And in 17 minutes, he broke the promise. No more gold exchange, effective immediately. Temporary, he said. Temporary. 55 years ago, in one night, every dollar in the world went from a gold receipt to a piece of paper backed by a politician's word. Nobody voted on it. Nobody approved it. No Congress, no referendum. Just one man, one speech, one night. And the consequences were immediate. In 1971, gold was $35 an ounce. Today, over $3,000. That's not gold getting more expensive. That's the dollar getting weaker, 99% weaker. In 1971, the average house cost $25,000. Today, $420,000. Same house, same wood, same bricks. But the money you use to buy it is worth a fraction of what it was. In 1971, a gallon of gas cost 36 cents. Today, $3.50. Same gasoline, same octane. But the dollar in your pocket is not the same dollar your father earned. Everything changed that night. Not the houses, not the bread, not the gas. The money changed. And nobody told you. And you've been living with the consequences ever since. So if money isn't backed by gold anymore, what is it backed by? The answer is going to make you uncomfortable. Now here's how money works now, and I need you to pay attention, because this is the part that changes how you see everything. Your money is created by banks, not by governments, not by mints, by commercial banks, every time they issue a loan. When you take out a mortgage, the bank doesn't open a vault and hand you someone else's savings. The bank types a number into your account. That number didn't exist before. It does now. That's it. That's where money comes from. 97% of all money in circulation was created this way. As debt, 3% is physical cash. The rest is keystrokes. Read that again. 97% of your money was created the moment someone borrowed it. Your salary, your savings, your rent. 97% of all of it was typed into existence by a bank that lent it to someone. Now think about what that means. If all loans were repaid tomorrow, 97% of all money would disappear. There would be almost no money left. The system needs debt to exist. Without borrowing, there is no money. You're not using money. You're using someone else's debt. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. When the bank creates that money, it creates the loan amount, but not the interest. If they lend you $300,000 for a house, they create $300,000. But you owe $450,000 over 30 years. The extra $150,000, it doesn't exist. It was never created. So where does it come from? From someone else's loan, from someone else's debt. The system is a game of musical chairs. There's always more debt than money. Someone always loses. And it gets worse. The Federal Reserve, the central bank, creates money too. But not for you, for the government. And for other banks. When the government needs money, it sells bonds. The Fed buys those bonds. With money it creates out of nothing, new dollars, injected into the system. Between 2020 and 2022, the Federal Reserve created $4.6 trillion in 2 years, more than the entire money supply in the year 2000. Where did that money go? Into stocks, into real estate, into assets owned by people who already had assets. The bottom 50% of Americans own 2.6% of the stock market. The top 1% owns 54%. So when the Fed prints money and it flows into stocks, who benefits? Not you. Not your neighbor. Not the guy working 2 jobs to make rent. The people who already own everything. They get richer. You get higher prices. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's the mechanism. It's published. It's public. Nobody hides it. They just don't explain it in terms you'd understand. Because if you understood it, you'd be furious. And here's the final piece. Inflation isn't an accident. It isn't a natural disaster. It's a policy. The Federal Reserve targets 2% inflation per year. On purpose. By design. 2% sounds harmless. But 2% per year means your money loses half its value every 36 years. That's one working lifetime. You spend your entire career earning dollars. And by the time you retire, every dollar you saved buys half as much. You didn't spend it. You didn't gamble it. It was taken from you. 2% at a time. And they call that, stability. In 1970, the median household income was $9,800. A house cost $23,000. A car cost $3,500. A year of college, $1,200. Today, median income is $75,000. Sounds like progress, right? But a house costs $420,000. A car, $48,000. College, $26,000. Income went up 7 times. Housing went up 18 times. College went up 21 times. You're not falling behind because you're lazy. You're falling behind because the math is designed that way. The prices rise faster than your paycheck. Every year, every decade, on purpose. But they're not done. The next phase is already being built, and this time they don't even need paper. This has already happened. Twice. In countries you've heard of. In 2016, India's Prime Minister went on television. Prime time. Sound familiar? He announced that 86% of all cash in circulation was now illegal. Overnight, 1.3 billion people woke up and their money was worthless. Lines around the block at every bank. People died waiting. In 2013, Cyprus froze every bank account in the country. If you had more than 100,000 euros, the government took 47%. Not taxes. Confiscation. Overnight. No vote. No appeal. That's what happens when governments control digital money. They don't need soldiers. They don't need warrants. They press a button. Now look at where the world is heading. In 11 countries, physical cash is disappearing. Sweden is at 5% cash transactions. Nigeria launched a digital currency in 2021. China has already tested the digital yuan on 260 million people. And the Federal Reserve is studying a digital dollar. It's called a CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. Your money, but on a government server. Every transaction tracked, every purchase logged, every dollar programmable. That's the word they use. It means your money could have rules attached to it. Spend it by this date. Spend it only on these things. Can't send it to that person. Can't save more than this amount. Think about what that means for you. Your cash? Gone. Your privacy? Gone. Your ability to spend your own money however you choose? Subject to approval. You used to carry gold. A receipt for real value. You could spend it anywhere. No one tracked it. No one controlled it. Then they replaced it with paper. Backed by gold. Still real. Still yours. Then they removed the gold. Paper backed by nothing. But at least you could hold it. Now they want to remove the paper. What's left? A number on a government screen. That they control. That they can freeze. That they can program. 5,000 years of money. And we went from gold you could hold to digits they can delete. You work 40 years, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 2,000 hours a year, 80,000 hours in a lifetime. All for money that didn't exist until someone typed it. Money that loses value every year by design. Money that can be printed by the trillions while your salary crawls forward by pennies. Your grandparents worked the same hours, took the same bus, ate the same lunch. But their money bought a house, a car, a future. Your money buys a fraction of that. Not because you work less. Not because you're less skilled. Because the money itself is worth less. Every single year. On purpose. Nobody asked your permission. Nobody asked your grandfather's permission. Nobody asked anyone. They just changed what money meant. and hoped you wouldn't notice. Gold lasted 5,000 years. The gold standard lasted centuries. Bretton Woods lasted 27 years. The current system is 55 years old, and they're already building the next one. Each version gives you less control. Each version gives them more. The question isn't whether your money is real. The question is, well, how much longer will it even be yours?